So we have started with a bang today. We started with Isabel and her new report, and we will cover some of those same issues and topics. So soon you are going to see, and I'm going to start introducing them. They will be on your screen in a matter of seconds, but we're going to have Ignacio García Comín, the Director of Digital and Mobile Solution from Telefonica Business Solution. We're going to have Csaba Füzesi, and Csaba will correct my bad Hungarian, I hope, but he's the Head of Product Management from Deutsche Telekom Global Carriers. Joined as well by Edwin Carvalho, the Senior Carrier Services Director for Vonage, and Dawood Ghalaieny are the CEO and Chairman of Cellusys as well. So we have, I can see all of you coming on the screen, so welcome. And thanks for joining us today. It's a slightly different setup. We were supposed to meet in a green room and talk nicely, but here we go. The excitement of the morning. I hope we provided some of that. So I'd like to welcome you. I don't know if you had some time to listen to the introduction, a very nice introduction from Isabel. And I think I'd like to go back on some of those points if possible. So there is a lot that Isabel has covered, more of it tomorrow, but obviously a lot that is happening in the industry right now. And the big theme of the transformation, let's say, in the wholesale ecosystem, the wholesale market. So good morning to you all. And let me start probably our discussions talking of one of the things that was touched on and mentioned in the big shift, which was from Isabel, the shift in structure, the shifts in the industry itself. We'll hear more of that tomorrow as well. But I think we have some of the big companies that are going through some of this transformation, that are going through these changes. So I'd like to get your idea of where your organization at least is moving and what it's doing. If I may, I'll start with Ignacio. Ignacio, Telefonica has been one of those companies that have helped us to see new organizational changes in the history. The first one to launch a proper big digital unit, and more recently we are seeing how the Telefonica solutions, business solutions, and the Telefonica International Wholesale arm as well are offering services. Can you tell us how these two units work and how things are changing from your side as well?
Good morning, Dario. Very pleased to be with you this morning. I hope everybody is doing well in current situations. And yes, it's very exciting times for everybody. Listening to Isabel and having a look to what's going around, what we see is that probably our jobs won't exist in 3 or 4 years. Actually, I think it's a good question for the audience if they think, according to what we have seen in the last 3, 6, 9 months, if they believe our jobs are still going to be there in 3, 4 years. And honestly, we have done this question in the past and very seriously in the last moments, because what we see is a transformation that is absolutely unpredictable. So we have been doing in the traditional business, voice, roaming, SMS, a good business for many years as international wholesale services. But with the digital challenge, what we have seen is not only the portfolio, but as well the big challenge for people. And probably the audience is going asking themselves if they are in the same situation. A lot of the colleagues who are listening to us is how all those wholesale changes is affecting us. No? What journey are we following? And basically, I would like the audience to keep a single word, which is partnership. So moving from traditional wholesale to the new digital, we are thinking in partnership. Partnership from one side with the providers, because we ask them flexibility to share the opportunity and risk, and partnership with our customers, And hopefully during the call, I will try to explain them what we are doing in both IoT, security, and messaging. So plenty of challenges, but as well plenty of opportunity. And I hope the session is going to be useful for everybody.
Well, that's great, and thanks, Ignacio. And similarly, I think we have Csaba here, but I'd like to ask the same similar questions. As by the way, Csaba, I think we have seen recently how Deutsche Telekom itself is changing, is adapting to the new environment in wholesale. So there is now a B2B powerhouse. So the question comes quite natural to me and say, well, what does it mean? What's a view of a change in wholesale from Deutsche Telekom?
Yeah, in fact, we had two major changes this year in 2020 in Deutsche Telekom. One of them was that Telekom Global Carrier has been moving from border area Europe to Telekom Germany. And at the same time, we also merged into the B2B powerhouse, which aims to centralize all of the B2B businesses, including the carrier operations as well. So in fact, Telekom Global Carrier is now responsible both for international carrier services and also for the B2B businesses to make sure that we can support the outbound B2B business from our German core business. At the same time, we also make sure that international customers can get easier access to the German footprint.
And you imagine these new structure will help us to get simpler end-to-end ownership, or what's the view? Why you would be doing it?
To be honest with you, all of these units were working together also in the past. What we can see in the new structure is that there are definitely more product synergy discussions, and also we expect more product optimizations to make sure that the customer experience is going to be flawless.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask, and Edwin, you come from Vonage, which is here the cloud communication representative, let's say, a different structure. But Vonage itself has changed a lot, I should say, and even recently we've seen the official merger under one umbrella of different parts and Nexmo, etc. So things are happening in the challenger cloud communication providers. What is your vision, or what is happening in the market as well from your point of view?
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody, and also thank you, Dario, for setting up the panel. I think telecom is fundamentally changing. It used to be very simple. There were very unique or very simplified products. In the wholesale space, it would be messaging, it would be voice. And what B2B customers are looking for is much more value-added services, much more complex services. And Vonage has changed fundamentally, as you said. It used to be a retail fixed line operator, and for 4 or 5 years, it's moved more into the B2B space and has been offering a lot of different solutions, from unified communication solutions to cloud communications platforms and to contact center solutions. Starting with the point around us joining everything into one umbrella, that was something that was always part of the Vonage vision. We wanted to have everything under one name, one message, to better communicate with our customers and to allow for cross-selling, for cross-pollination, etc. In terms of how the market is changing, well, we believe that through offering APIs, through offering more value-added services, the customers can actually build better use experience for their customers. And fundamentally, that's the way that the market is changing, also in the wholesale space, to more value-added services. I feel that COVID has actually accelerated this, as more and more companies now need more advanced solutions to communicate even with their employees, not just with their end customers. And interestingly, just recently, I read a small article on Forbes where they mentioned that COVID-19 has accelerated digital innovation much more than a CTO or CEO would ever do.
Well, something positive for the last few years, a few months of suffering and of COVID. Well, we will see even more changes, I aspect, and I think Isabel in her keynote already pointed out some of that. So there's more and more coming. Let's ask the view from Dawood from Cellusys, a specialist in the security and a specialist in actually many more things right now, because I think you've now generated a separate company. We have heard of Zariot as well. So tell us a bit more. You have two now different brands. What's that in response to? What's happening at Cellusys?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dario, for the invite. I think you referred to it as two separate brands. Yes, they are, but they actually are two separate entities completely. And what we have effectively done is taken what we do in Cellusys, which is signaling security, roaming management systems, and quality measurement and quality of service on the data plane within the mobile networks. And what we have from those three different kind of product lines, merged them together to form something that is perfect for IoT. What we have seen is that there's been a lack of complete end-to-end knowledge in the entire mobile IoT ecosystem. And as such, what we have is what I ultimately call connected chaos. So we have multitudes of connectivity providers who are simply, handing out SIM cards and trying to fill every possible device that exists out there with a SIM card or connectivity. We have a huge amount of manufacturers that are trying to get that connectivity as well, without really understanding the long-term kind of implications, for that. A IoT SIM card is roaming effectively, so it requires a huge amount of understanding around the roaming ecosystem. From a security side of things, IoT exposes a huge amount of vulnerabilities within the mobile network because of the increase of the amount of devices that are on there that are vulnerable to various vectors of threats, from denial of service to location tracking to interception, etc. So that security angle had never been dealt with. And then from the quality of service angle as well, there hadn't been much kind of thought put into that. And when you think that a lot of these devices are going to be in the field for not just 5 or 10 years, but they could be there for 15 or 20, how does that affect the entire, ecosystem? A race to the bottom in terms of price of the IoT devices, let alone the connectivity, means that, we've got a huge amount of devices out there that potentially have significant vulnerabilities. And I'm not talking about simply security vulnerabilities, but also quality vulnerabilities. They may be rebooting every night at midnight by accident, causing a signaling storm on the mobile network. How is that controlled? So the reason why Zariot was set up, and again, it's a move and a shift in the balance from vendor to operator, this shift in risk, let's say, because the mobile operators not seeing the entire picture or willing to invest as much as they used to, putting a lot more onus on the likes of us to come up with solutions for the market. So that's why we have actually set up Zariot to provide that secure connectivity while understanding that entire IoT ecosystem end to end and managing that, into the future.
Well, great. So we hear the different stories, and I think you already pointed out through your different answers of some of the big themes we hear so far, from the suppliers taking more risk, becoming players themselves in the service provisions, as Dawood and Edwin looking at the additional level of service creations on top of the cloud. Where else you go in with additional value-added services? I think we've seen from the large telecoms as well, Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom, a complete reset of their activity as well. So the big reset is coming back. Lots of excitement, and I think you already started mentioning these, and I think I'll go back to some of your, but the product portfolios is changing. So what we and Ignacio started saying, our jobs are going to be different maybe in 5 years' time. We'll have different titles. I would have probably said, are we going to have different products? We talk more closely to our different suppliers and partners and official and final users. And Csaba, to you as well, you are the head of products at Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier. So the question should really start with you. What do you expect in terms of the wholesale products in the next few years?
So the wholesale industry is definitely transforming. We need to be more agile. There needs to be more automation. I think these are all aspects what we share in the community. Ignacio already mentioned partnerships. I think in terms of product portfolio development, partnerships are very vital, both in the security area, also in other value-added service areas. So also from Telecom Global Carrier's perspective, we work together with multiple specialist partners. So beside the standard connectivity solutions, we also provide higher value-added services. And these partnerships, in many cases, are mutually beneficial. So I think this is not only the interest of the carriers, but also the interest of the value-added service solution developers. At the same time, we also invest a lot into the security questions, which was highlighted by Dawood. I think we have one of the best voice fraud management platforms in the industry, what we will talk about later on the MEF conference. At the same time, we also work with third parties if they have better solutions or value propositions for our end customers. So these partnerships are going to be more and more important. And everyone should look for new challenges where we can support our end customers with innovative solutions.
No, fantastic. Now, Ignacio, I'll go back to you. You already talked about partnerships and you're delivering digital solutions. So which is my first question to you as well, is what's changing in delivering solutions in the wholesale market? What's your product view based on that part?
Thanks, Dario. I listened very carefully to Edwin and Csaba when they were speaking. And clearly, let's say we have some services that are, I think, identified by the industry as growth. IoT is one clear one. Security is another one. And messaging for us is definitely another one. The key thing is, how do you bring value? So in the ecosystem that we are all living, there are plenty of companies, and each of us, security with Dawood, for instance, is a specialist, is where do we bring value? And we think that because of the shift in the industry, because of the shift in the product, because of the shift of the customer demands, we need to be very flexible, we need to be very fast supporting those customer requirements. And this is why we think that the partnership is a very good way of doing so. So in the digital, let's say, journey, what we are doing is a big effort to put in place all the tools to make our customers' life easier. An easier contract, a portal where they find all the information. If they have a master service agreement, they can be our partner on IoT or on messaging. All the information will be available online. So I think this is the big change is how do we help our customers instead of having just a transactional relationship, traditional one, to create value. And we think that all the APIs that Edwin was mentioning, for instance, at the beginning, is a basic thing. So we believe that the services are going to evolve, and we think the verticals that we call the main streams of the services, we are going to have different flavors and different pieces that are going to be together. Last week, when you were running all the RCS business, all the industry, all things that you were mentioning in your discussions, it's clear that it's not just a matter of having a platform. It's how do you bring value? How do you help the end customer to have a secure, flexible, and complete solution in the right time? No? And this is the challenge, to bring solutions. This is the big challenge. This is the big shift from pure wholesale to solutions, Dario. I hope I answer you. I hope so.
Well, you've certainly done so, and I think we can see already some of the theme emerging from our discussions. You're already referring back to some of the things you're doing. Let me ask then on the flexibility and API questions. I will follow from what already mentioned by Ignacio and the partnership in general. Edwin, Vonage was born with APIs in mind, I assume, because of its nature. Now, but you mentioned as well these focus on new services or partner services or value-added services. We've seen through Nexmo the Verify API or the contact center ones. Can you give us a bit more flavor if somebody comes to wholesale with these new services? What would that be? What are you offering, and what are you expected to be soon?
Well, I think actually Ignacio and Csaba actually touched on a lot of the points that customers are more demanding today, and they're expecting much more advanced solutions. And it's not so much a product today, it's a solution. So us in the API business, what we're looking to offer is actually more value add to our customers. And it's actually moving, and you touched on Verify, which is a great example, changing from pure HP messaging to something like the Verify product, where we actually are offering our customers not HP SMS, but we're offering verification, authentication. And this could be an API which mixes an SMS, a voice call, an email, pure omni-channel experience. So touching on your point around how APIs mix with the wholesale business, of course, we need the wholesale, let's say, infrastructure underneath. But the market itself is moving to more complex solutions. The APIs allow for that. They allow for customers to build their own solution, but they also allow for us to offer directly more advanced components and more advanced experiences.
Well, fantastic. Something else was mentioned already before was security, and it was mentioned by Dawood. Csaba, I think Ignacio as well touched on it. And Dawood, I would like to go back to that. You almost, I think, described it before, how security is becoming one of those areas to combat the lower margin of the lower prices in general. But let me ask you as well, security is becoming a product in its own right. How do you see security in the industry? Is it something that the operators need to do? Is it something that you sell to the end customers? What's going to be security in 5 years?
Ultimately, it's a little bit of an academic exercise. If you look at product itself, the 5 Ps: product, price, place, promotion, packaging. How is the product actually made up? So, one of the biggest threats, and we're going to hear it over and over within the next 2 days, about margin and margin erosion. It's a huge issue within our industry. Hopefully, that's going to change. So when you look at the price of something coming down and how aggressively it's come down in the past kind of couple of years, so when something approaches close to zero, you kind of think like, how do we bring the value back there? And when you look at something like security in itself, it's genuinely priceless. You cannot put a price or a premium, or enough of a premium on security. It's that important. So as those margins kind of decline, security becomes much more important, as a way to avoid that kind of margin erosion, especially when you talk about, our business, the telecoms business, and, what is often referred to as a dumb pipe. Let's stop playing at the dumb pipe and start being something, that is significantly premium and has a significant amount of quality. So when we apply a security layer, on top of that, we can demand, a more premium price. and it ensures that, you know, the long-term protection of our ecosystem is there and is not devalued. Because as time goes on, you know, we look at things like SMS, you know, why is that so useful as a mechanism for mobile identity? Because it's pretty much guaranteed that, you know, an SMS authentication, you know, is valid. But if that is compromised, then the value, you know, that we have within our mobile ecosystem kind of declines. And that security threat, you know, ultimately, you know, affects our margins in general. You know, if we look at denial of service on the telco plane, again, like, we don't want that to happen. So, you know, if we apply that, you know, within the mobile ecosystem as something that we can definitively secure and allow it not to happen, then we can say, like, you know, this premium product, you know, will not be compromised by denial of service, and you can add your level of premium pricing onto that. So, you know, in terms of, you know, the long-term protection of the margin within our ecosystem, it's very, very important to have security as an all-encompassing, you know, component to maintain that and retain the value of the mobile ecosystem to be used in the future, you know, again, for more important things that will come down the line, such as mobile identity, etc. And that's why I think that security plays such a pivotal role in, you know, not only securing our margins, but securing our futures as well.
Well, we already have a few more of themes in here. Well, obviously, flexibility, API, the importance of security, the importance of the overall the fluidity that was mentioned before between the different companies and the ability to reload. But I've got another couple of questions to ask these panels. But before I go there, I should ask our viewers, if you have any questions, do use the chat, the session Q&A, and ask themselves. But meanwhile, looking at all of the different things we've mentioned, I think it goes back to one discussion that we had friendly yesterday as well, in terms of the role of the carrier. We used to say in the 2000s the carrier is becoming the dumb pipe. Maybe it's a pipe that actually requires a lot of smart people to make it run effectively and properly with the different things we've seen right now. But nevertheless, the new areas where people are looking are not necessarily the pipe itself. Maybe the customer experience, maybe what goes inside. Other parts are becoming more visible. How a user can approach the service itself, etc., or build services on top. So let me ask you about this, the question of customer experience. How do you see your customers referring back to you? How things are changing there as well? You know, are we seeing a different customer experience for wholesale as well? So let me ask that to start. I'll go with Edwin this time. And Edwin, what's the vision of customer experience coming from Vonage?
Well, I think customers are becoming ever more demanding. We live in a world where customer experience rules and everybody expects the best service possible. We see it in all lines of business. We see Amazon now delivering in 2 hours, and that's an example of great customer experience. We see Apple offering the best service possible to their customers. And in telco, it's the same thing. Operators are more and more looking at how can they offer better connectivity, better deliverability on messaging, better quality of voice, HD voice, and other services. And thankfully, they've been doing a great job. We track a lot of different metrics as an API company, from deliverability of SMS, deliverability of voice calls. And what we've seen over the years is a constant improvement of the quality. So that's very good to see. Customers are more demanding too, and this means that we also have to focus on other aspects, such as the level of our support, the engagement we have with the customers. This is part of what we do, and it reflects down the chain. So we also demand it from the carriers.
Sure. Let me ask, if anybody else has got a view on customer experience, what would you expect to be different on customer experience?
From Telecom Global Carrier's perspective, quality is a very instrumental and vital part of our value proposition. So when it comes to the dumb pipes, we used to say that we are a pretty good one, and that's alone a differentiation. At the same time, I also shared the view of Dawood and also Edwin that you need the value-added services to make sure that we are going to deliver higher value to the customers. And at the same time, many mobile operators are buying bundled services, so they are not necessarily buying the security products separately from the connectivity services. So in those cases, we have to work anyway together. So that's also an important aspect of the customer experience and what customers really expect in this area.
It's a pleasure to hear that from a mobile ecosystem forum, because so much is based on working across the different parts of the ecosystem. We've heard it with partnership, we've heard it with value-added services are more complex. So it looks like working together or across the different parts of the world seems to be of wholesale, seems to be very important. So let me probably ask you if we can to summarize some of our discussions as well. If I could say that what is your biggest wish for the ecosystem? So talking to the entire people that are out there, what would you ask them to focus on for the next 12 months? What's the biggest thing? And I'll ask Ignacio to start. So Ignacio, what's your biggest request for the industry?
Okay, I think you unveiled the answer somehow, Dario, but when I started at the beginning saying, I don't know if we will have our jobs in 3 years, what I meant is we will have different jobs. And so what I wanted to bring is optimism. I think in the market, in the current COVID situation, optimism and understand that we are somehow struggling because, let's say, the investors or customers are behaving in a different manner is somehow challenging, but we need to be optimistic, and if we are bringing value to the market, we will be there and we will help the ecosystems to move forward. No, this is the first thing. The second thing, and it has been said as well during the session, we believe that working in partnering in a digital way with API, with portal, doing I would say the stream between the different partners of the ecosystem fluent and easy is capital. So when I saw some of the discussions last week about the RCS, I was saying, oh my God, this is becoming too complex. We need to keep things simple. To bring solutions doesn't mean to make things complex. The key thing is, let's work between us to have simple contracts, simple flexibility, simple commitments. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of people. In Telefonica, what we decide is, for instance, a separate group, and what we hope is, and we will interface with Telecom or with Vonage, what we like is to have a specialist in front of us. And I think this kind of relationships is going to make things simple, faster, and easier for everybody. This is my least wish.
One wish from Ignacio in Telefonica. Thanks, Ignacio. Let me ask Dawood then from Cellusys. What do you think will be the biggest thing that the ecosystem needs to do?
Well, I have to agree with Ignacio. I think, he referred to specialist. The way I term that is like you concentrate on what is your core competency. And I think that, the more people that concentrate on what their core competency is, the better everything kind of gets. So, and referring again back to Ignacio when he talked about partnerships, so, that partnership means that vendors, start doing more of what our systems do or managing those systems. So moving into, let's say more of a managed services kind of role within the operators as well. So you're kind of just doing more end-to-end management of what your product even does. And I think that means that like everything is actually done much more perfectly than it previously was, rather than having a system put in and people learning how to manage it. you have a system put in and those experts managing it. So it goes back to, focusing on core competencies and more partnership, within the telco value chain.
Great. Edwin from Vonage.
I'm going to touch on 2 points that Ignacio and Dawood mentioned. And probably 2 words I would bring are innovation and also collaboration. I think the market needs more and more innovation. And of course, we are innovating a lot. But many times this is only possible via a cross-functional collaboration between companies. So we need, picking up on what Dawood said, there's specialists in different areas, and to bring a new product to market, we might need an API company like Vonage, we might need a specialist in security like Cellusys or Dawood, we might need a carrier like Telefonica or Telecom. However, all companies have to be willing to collaborate and to innovate and bring something new to the market. So I'd like to put that as my key words. And that's really what I'd like to see in the industry. A lot of innovation, a lot of collaboration between different companies with different expertise to bring new solutions to market, which ultimately help the end customer.
Oh, great. And then Csaba, what would you add?
I fully share these views. What I would add from our perspective is that we also need new innovative business models. One clear example is that looking at, for example, the voice outsourcing, this is the same model that now we started to see in the mobile roaming enablement business. So especially with the declining roaming revenues, many mobile operators started to look at how to sometimes completely outsource this business, especially when someone else can do this better.
That's great. And we're probably running slightly late, but we'll keep you here for a few more minutes because we have one comment with a readout right now from Isabel Paradis, which you just heard at the beginning, saying, what about resilience? I think that's growing in importance. I would say that all of the speakers today have shown great resilience, not giving up on us, and then maybe the viewers out there as well. Thank you for staying with us. But the resilience is an important theme, and I will just ask one of you to answer these questions. I'll stay with Csaba. Csaba, the resilience, how important is it?
I think it's even more important under the COVID times. What we saw from our end customers and also from our engineering staff is that this is probably that was the most important aspect of the whole telecommunication value chain in Q2 this year. People started to upgrade the networks just to make sure that they can keep up with the traffic development, and this was true for all of the different platforms that we operate and maintain. So that's going to be also a vital instrument for the future, and this is where quality operators can support the mobile operators with their value propositions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'd just like to step in there just with a final comment. I mean, when you talk about resilience, that effectively is, let's say, staying power, okay? However, if you take a step back and look at it, the telco business is a very mature business. So resilience should automatically be built in there. We are a utility, we're critical national infrastructure. So resilience is kind of ingrained in there. So I would generally take it as a given. We are telco, we're here for the future, we're not going anywhere. But then just coming back to, what is a mature business? It means that we're all aging, look at our age profile of everybody in the industry, and when you look at innovation, us old guys, we're not going to innovate as much as, a newer, younger generation. And I think, if anybody wants to address innovation or more innovation in our business, we really need to start bringing in new blood, getting rid of all the old people like myself, etc., stepping out of Cellusys, bringing new blood in. So if we want that kind of change to happen for innovation, we need to change from becoming an exceptionally mature business to one that kind of emulates something a little bit newer, let's say.
Well, and be careful. I mean, lots of people at Cellusys will wondering if you want to step down, don't leave us now. But the new generation is coming. It sounds very clear, the message. I have one more question that I'm going to ask that came out, and we probably cannot call all the questions, but one of them from Ramon Grip from Dent. Any impact mobile data via eSIM for smartphones will have on the wholesale offering? So we talk about eSIM in general, and sometimes eSIM has got different applications from the IoT world to anything else, data for mobile in general. Let me ask if anybody's ready to take that. I mean, I know that Ignacio, you are supplying IoT services as part of your business solutions. What's the impact that eSIMs in the wholesale markets? What do you expect there?
It's a little bit tricky. From one side, we have all the developments, and from one side, it changed the way we work with our providers. It's clear that the physical SIM keeps, let's say, the business more stable, and it changes as well the way we provide connectivity. So the eSIM changes not only, let's say, the standard, but the way we approach the business. What we have seen is that, for instance, Telefonica currently has one of the largest roaming agreements in the world because of the tourism. In Spain, we have, I think it's 50 million visitors per year. So this allows us to have a very powerful global SIM. And we have been selling for the last 3 years, the global SIM with very good results. Now, car makers and some industries are requesting us the eSIM. So we are, let's say, developing the service. We have started to do the first integrations with some customers. And what we see is that the global SIM approach is going to move into a more what we call sponsored roaming solutions. Basically, it's not only to use the global connectivity provided by the roaming, but as well the local opportunities that are in each market. No? So it's a different game. It's a different game. You need to understand how to handle, to be very flexible again, to be very fast. So all things that we have done or said during the call today, you need to be safe, applies to the challenge between the physical SIM and the eSIM.
That's great. Well, I think we almost at the end of our session. So I think these are the last remarks that really can squeeze in. So I'd like first to thank you all, starting from Csaba, Dawood, Edwin, and Ignacio. Has been a very interesting discussions for me. Definitely, I take away some bullet points that in the next few days, well, I think we'll go back to. And surely, I've heard that there is a lot of change happening, and I see you saying that and shaking your hands. I've heard from Csaba, and correct me, that we might be down pipes, but we better be pretty good down pipes. And Deutsche Telekom seems to be looking for that quality perspective there. So well done to the good pipes of this word. Ignacio, you told us more about the importance of partnerships and how we have to rebuild the industry as well. So I think that's definitely interesting themes, and the complexity of it all. It needs to be simpler. So Edwin has mentioned us all about the importance for Vonage of APIs and so on. Dawood, you tell us that how much of security is important, and that came out in its higher level. Everything has to be secure. There is no escape from that. And as well as in terms of making sure this service is a more compelling and a more premium. You also said that we need to change blood. I'm really concerned about what I'm going to do after Ignacio asking us what we're going to do in the next 5 years. I'm looking for painting. Who knows? Something might work. No, but on a serious note, this is a very resilient industry, and is a comment that I would like to make in general. And based on the forecast from Isabel as well, this is still a lot of value coming out of this industry. The question is who will be able to capitalize on that as well. And I really like to thank you again, all of you. I just sent a message about the next sessions if you're watching us live, which is the business messaging for wholesale challenges and opportunities. That's just slightly delayed by 10 minutes. So if you join us, enjoy the first 10 minutes in terms of interactive and talking to each other. But now, thanks again to Csaba, Dawood, Edwin, and Ignacio. It's been very good, and thank you very much. I hope to see you very soon on face-to-face or one of these virtual events as well. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.